We often chase outcomes. We want success. We want clarity. We want peace. But we forget something crucial. Control is not about managing the outside world. It's about mastering what's inside. There are only a few things in life we truly control. And if you can take ownership of just 4 of them, your life will begin to change, not gradually, but instantly. We live in a world that is fighting for your attention every second of the day. Every ding, every ping, every scroll, every pop-up, it's all engineered to pull you away from yourself. Your attention has become a commodity sold to the highest bidder. Companies spend millions just to grab a few seconds of your focus. But the real question is, what are you choosing to give your attention to? Because here's the truth. Your life is a reflection of what you consistently give your attention to. Whatever you water grows. If you give attention to fear, fear will expand. If you give attention to growth, growth will follow. If you focus on distractions, life will become chaotic. But if you focus on discipline, you'll start to see order emerge. Most people don't lose their potential. They simply lose their focus. They're not failing because they lack talent, drive, or intelligence. They're failing because they're scattering their attention across 1,000 meaningless things and leaving nothing left for what truly matters. You can't build a meaningful life in fragments. You can't chase 10 things at once and expect to master any of them. But when your attention becomes focused, concentrated, and intentional, you unlock a different level of clarity. Suddenly, you see what needs to be done. You know where to begin. You begin to feel aligned instead of anxious. The problem is we've trained ourselves to be reactive. The moment a message comes in, we jump. The moment we feel bored, we scroll. The moment we feel uncertain, we distract ourselves. But that constant mental shift comes at a cost. It robs us of presence. And presence is where everything meaningful lives. When you give something your full attention, whether it's a goal, a conversation, or even just your breath, you begin to engage with life in a different way. You're no longer drifting. You're choosing. So ask yourself, what are you choosing to focus on each day? Are you spending hours comparing yourself to people you don't even know? Are you obsessing over what's outside your control, news, opinions, gossip, noise? Or are you investing your attention into your craft, your purpose, your growth? Attention is a form of energy, and that energy can either elevate you or exhaust you. If you're feeling drained, it's not always because you're doing too much. It's often because you're attending to things that don't feed your spirit. People who constantly complain, tasks that don't align with your values, conversations that keep looping without progress. These are leaks in your focus, and they will keep you stuck. But the good news is, attention is a choice. And it's a choice you can start making right now. You can choose to unplug from distractions. You can choose to take control of your environment. You can choose to protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Imagine what your life could look like if you took all the energy you spend worrying about the past or trying to control the future and redirected it toward what you can do today, right now, this hour. Transformation doesn't require a massive external shift. It just requires a shift in attention, because when you start to focus on solutions instead of problems, you become resourceful. When you start to focus on progress instead of perfection, you become resilient. And when you start to focus on the present instead of the past, you become powerful. This is why the people we admire, the ones who are calm under pressure, the ones who lead with vision, the ones who seem unshakable, they're not lucky. They've simply trained themselves to direct their attention where it counts. They don't allow distractions to dictate their direction. They understand that every time they say yes to one thing, they're saying no to 100 others. And they choose wisely. So if you want to transform your life, don't start by changing your job, your relationship, your location. Start by changing your focus. Audit your attention. Ask, is this helping me grow? Is this moving me forward? Is this aligned with who I want to become? And if the answer is no, let it go. Because your attention is the steering wheel of your life. Point it where you want to go. Hold it steady, and everything else will follow. You can't control what the world throws at you. Life is unpredictable. People will misunderstand you, criticize you, challenge you. Plans will fall apart. Things will go wrong. That's just reality. But in the middle of all that chaos, you are always left with one powerful choice: how you respond. Your reaction is where your real power lives. We often believe that our mood is determined by what's happening around us, that someone else's tone, someone else's opinion, or some external inconvenience is the reason we're angry, discouraged, or defensive. But what if it isn't? What if it's not the event that defines your experience, but your reaction to it? Pause for a moment and consider that. Because once you truly understand that you control your reaction, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the author of your emotional life. There's a space between stimulus and response, a tiny gap, and in that gap lies your freedom. That gap is where emotional intelligence is born. That gap is where leadership begins. That gap is where transformation happens. Most people never slow down long enough to find that space. They react instantly. Someone insults them. They snap. A plan fails. They spiral. They get rejected. They shut down. It's automatic, emotional, and unchecked. But here's the truth, that automatic reaction is often where we sabotage ourselves. Your ability to choose your response is what separates you from living reactively and living intentionally. Reacting is easy. Responding is powerful. Think about the people you admire, not the loud ones, not the reactive ones, but the grounded ones. The ones who stay calm in crisis, who don't flinch when criticized, who don't crumble when things don't go their way. Why do we respect them so deeply? It's not because they're emotionless. It's because they've learned to master the moment. They've built the muscle of response. Because response is a skill, it's a practice. It requires awareness, restraint, and presence. And the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. Let me be clear. Mastering your reaction doesn't mean suppressing your emotion. It doesn't mean pretending things don't hurt. It means feeling the emotion but not becoming it. It means noticing anger without lashing out. Noticing fear without shrinking back. Noticing anxiety without letting it drive the wheel. Your reaction becomes your reputation. It becomes your energy. It becomes your identity. Are you the person who panics in uncertainty or the one who leans in and thinks clearly? Are you the person who blames and deflects or the one who takes ownership and adjusts? Are you the person who reacts from ego or responds from values? Every reaction is a chance to reinforce who you want to become. The world is filled with noise and pressure. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is not react. Not send the angry text. Not escalate the argument. Not take the bait. Silence, restraint, and grace can be louder than any comeback. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to fight every battle. Not everything requires your energy. Not every opinion needs your response. Not every slight deserves your attention. When you learn to pause, to breathe, to choose, you gain a level of self-respect that can't be shaken by what someone else does. This is not about passivity. This is about intentionality. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to speak up. But do it with clarity, not chaos. Do it from strength, not from pain. Because when your reactions are no longer dictated by insecurity or impulse, your life becomes rooted in purpose. When you react less, you think more. When you take things less personally, you become more powerful. And when you stop feeding energy into everything that triggers you, you start protecting your peace. And that peace, that clarity, that emotional stability, that's what unlocks progress. That's what keeps you focused. That's what gives you influence. Your reaction is your responsibility. You don't owe the world emotional perfection, but you owe yourself the awareness to choose a response that aligns with your values, not just your feelings in the moment. You can't control the storm, but you can be the calm inside it. And once you master that, everything changes. Because life will test you, people will test you, and situations will challenge you. But if you can stand still in your truth and respond with intention, you've already won the battle. Most people don't even know they're fighting. The most important conversation you'll have in your entire life is the one you have with yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but every day, every moment in the background of everything you do. It's that voice in your head, the one narrating your experiences, the one interpreting your failures, the one shaping how you see yourself when no one's watching. And the truth is, that voice can either build you or break you. It can either remind you of your potential or replay every doubt you've ever heard. The question is, are you even aware of it? Most people aren't. Most people let that voice run on autopilot. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to a friend. They insult their own efforts. They doubt their own worth. They rehearse every mistake, every insecurity, every reason why they think they're not good enough. And they wonder why they feel stuck, exhausted, and lost. You are not what you say to others. You are what you say to yourself when you're alone. That internal dialogue is not harmless. It shapes your mindset. It determines what you think is possible. It decides whether you show up or back down. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not smart enough," you'll avoid opportunities that require you to stretch. If you repeat, "I always mess things up," you'll approach every new challenge expecting failure. If you convince yourself, "No one cares about me," you'll start isolating, closing off, withdrawing, even when people do care. Your self-talk becomes your self-image, and your self-image becomes your behavior. That's why real change doesn't begin with new routines. It begins with new language. Not external language, but internal. It begins with interrupting that voice in your head that always jumps to criticism and teaching it a new vocabulary, a vocabulary of truth, of patience, of growth. You are not weak for having negative thoughts. Everyone has them, but you are responsible for which ones you choose to believe. Start noticing your patterns. When you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? When you succeed, do you allow yourself to feel proud, or do you brush it off and move to the next thing? When you feel overwhelmed, do you tell yourself you're incapable or that you'll figure it out? That voice inside you will often echo old wounds, things you heard in childhood or during your lowest moments. But here's what no one tells you. Just because a thought feels familiar doesn't mean it's true. You get to rewrite the script. You can replace "I'll never change" with "I'm learning to change." You can replace "I'm a mess" with "I'm doing the best I can today." You can replace "No one believes in me" with "I believe in myself," and that's enough to start. This is not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's about speaking to yourself with the same empathy you offer to others. You wouldn't call your friend a failure for falling down. So why do you speak that way to yourself? Real self-talk is honest, but it's also compassionate. It acknowledges the struggle without condemning the person. It sees mistakes as part of the process, not as a permanent label. When you start shifting the way you speak to yourself, you'll notice something incredible. Your actions begin to change too. You'll start showing up differently. You'll take more risks. You'll recover faster from setbacks. You'll stop waiting for the world to validate you because you've already started validating yourself. And don't underestimate what that does for your confidence. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't always show up as charisma or certainty. Sometimes confidence is quiet. It's that subtle inner belief that says, even if I don't have it all figured out, I trust myself to keep going. That trust is built one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one kind internal sentence at a time. You won't change your self-talk overnight, but you can become aware of it. You can challenge it. You can replace judgment with curiosity. And over time, you can build a voice inside your head that becomes your ally, not your enemy. The most powerful version of you is not the one who never struggles. It's the one who knows how to speak to themselves when they do. So be patient with yourself. Be clear. Be grounded. Your self-talk is your foundation. Strengthen it. And you'll carry yourself through anything. Change doesn't happen when you feel inspired. Change happens when you make a choice and repeat it over and over. That's what habits are. They're the small decisions you make every day that silently build the structure of your life. And whether you realize it or not, your habits are either creating momentum or dragging you down. Everyone wants transformation. Everyone wants progress, growth, discipline. But most people look for it in the wrong place. They think change comes from one big breakthrough, one perfect plan, one life-changing event. But transformation isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's hidden in the quiet, repetitive choices you make when no one's watching. The alarm you either snooze or rise with. The phone you either scroll or set aside. The words you either say or hold back. The hour you either waste or use to build. These seem like small things. But small things, repeated consistently, become identity. That's why you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. You can set a goal to be disciplined, focused, successful, calm, but if your daily habits are scattered, reactive, and unintentional, you'll keep sabotaging yourself. The most successful people in any area of life aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the most consistent. They've built habits that align with who they want to become. They've trained themselves to make the right choice, even when it's not exciting. Especially when it's not exciting. That's the test of a habit. Can you do the right thing without needing a reward right away? Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they expect instant results. They go to the gym for a week and get discouraged when nothing changes. They start journaling or meditating but stop because they don't feel different. But growth doesn't shout, it whispers, it builds quietly in the background until one day it reveals itself. You don't see the results immediately, but the habit is doing its work. Every time you show up for yourself, even in a small way, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. That's how identity is built, not in grand gestures, but in repeated action. So the question isn't, what do I want? The question is, what am I doing daily that's either helping or hurting that goal? Audit your habits. Be honest. Are your mornings chaotic or intentional? Do your evenings bring clarity or numb you out? Do you start your day with purpose or with noise? You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Start small. Pick one habit, one pattern you know is dragging you away from your potential, and replace it with something simple, something sustainable. Instead of checking your phone first thing, read one page. Instead of saying, I don't have time, schedule 15 minutes. Instead of watching another episode, go to bed when you said you would. Don't chase intensity, chase consistency, because motivation fades, discipline stays. And habits are the bridge between the person you are today and the person you're trying to become. The truth is, your habits are the proof of what you really value. You can say you value growth, but do your actions reflect that? You can say you want peace, but do your daily choices protect that peace? If not, change isn't about doing more, it's about doing less of what pulls you off course. Your habits are not fixed. You can design them. You can engineer them. You can break the ones that no longer serve you and build new ones that align with who you want to be. And once you commit to that process, not for a day, not for a week, but for a season, you'll start to feel the shift. Not just in your productivity, but in your confidence. Because nothing builds trust with yourself like doing what you said you'd do again and again. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to change what you repeat. And if you can take control of your habits, you can take control of your future.